Hello all you lovely monster-loving cosmonauts. As always, I am Cosmic, and today we're going to be previewing the new CCG from CD Projekt Red, Gwent, which is based off the in-game minigame from The Witcher 3 of the same name. Now, those of you who've watched my videos before will know that I'm a big fan of the Witcher series. I'm a fan of the books, I'm a fan of the video games, and I absolutely adored The Witcher 3. Even more so, I loved Gwent even more, and I was playing a game within a game for more hours than I would care to admit. So when CD Projekt Red announced that they were making a standalone Gwent game, I was fairly optimistic, I was excited, and I was very, very happy. Now, the game is currently in closed beta, and I've played a fair few hours on it since its closed beta launched, and I've come up with a first impressions of where I think the project is at the moment, where I hope it's going to be in the future. For the most part, I have to say straight off the bat that I love it. I absolutely love it. I think it's great fun. It still retains Gwentness, if that is even a term, Gwentness, I guess so. It still remains the same as the core base game as it was in The Witcher 3, and this time it has been changed to allow for more competitive play. It's been changed to allow for more tactics, more strategies, but the core of the game is still very much the same. So for those of you who don't know, Gwent is a card game that consists of 3 rounds, and your job is to beat the other person by points, and these are strength points, and you essentially lay cards down which can come in 3 different classes. They can come in melee, ranged, and artillery classes, and you lay those cards down. Each card has a strength value, and it becomes a case of whoever has the most strength points at the end of the round wins. Now, you might think that is ridiculously simple, but things get complicated when you have to win 2 rounds out of 3 to win the overall game. So if you put all your cards down in the first round and lose, you're done. If you put all of your, most of your cards down in the first round and win, but then you have only like 2 cards left for the rest of the rounds, then you're going to be pretty much screwed. And it works very simple to that. It's a very simple game to pick up. It's nice and easy, but underneath that surface layer of easiness, it's really easy to pick up. It's a game that is also fairly more complex and has a lot more depth to it, especially since the new changes for the standalone have occurred. One of the major changes for the standalone is, of course, that a lot of cards now have cards abilities. These include attacking the opposite side of the battlefield to take away strength. You can have creatures that breed. I particularly like the monster deck. I'm a big fan of monster deck. I was a big fan of the monster deck in the original Gwent. And a lot of those monsters, they are low strength cards, but they are breedable. So what happens is if you lay that one down, then if there is the same card in your deck, you will pull that out of your deck directly onto the battlefield. On top of that, there's also magic cards now. So, for example, the one I love that corresponds directly with breedable cards is the ability to duplicate any breedable card on the field, and that increases it even more. And the monster deck is a lot about strength of numbers and that kind of thing, and I absolutely love that gameplay style. It's important to note that Gwent is fairly dissimilar from things like Hearthstone. Yes, there are definite similarities there, but it is played very differently. The cards are very different, and ultimately the strategies that you have to use are very, very different to that of a normal Hearthstone deck. Now, similar to its competitors, Gwent is going to have a fairly simple business model in that you can play the game and then you can purchase more card packs to unlock new cards. Card packs work somewhat slightly differently from its competitors in terms of Elder Scrolls Legends and Hearthstone, in that once you open a keg, which is a card pack, you select the cards that you want. You can reveal the cards that you get, and then on top of that you get to choose a rare card every single time out of 3. So you can choose out of 3 rare cards, and you get to choose one and destroy the other 2, which is very useful if you're looking for a particular deck card. So, for example, if you're looking for cards for your monster deck, you don't have to settle for something for the Scoia'tael deck, for example. Now, speaking of the decks themselves, each deck has a different playstyle. Each deck has a leader, and that leader has a leader ability. So, for example, the monster deck leader is the big bad boss of The Witcher 3, leader of the Wild Hunt, and his sole ability is that you get to play him as a 10 strength card. That's it. You get to play him for 1 round, and it's a gold card, and a gold card is essentially a hero unit or someone who's going to be famous from the games or the lore, and they are basically untouchable. Gold cards are immune to most status effects, they're immune to most abilities, so it's a pretty solid card to play. Other decks have various abilities, such as duplicating cards or replacing cards in your hand, that kind of thing, and it works really well in the sense that there's lots of different playstyles to get to grips with, and within those playstyles, there's playstyles within playstyles, if you get my meaning, in the sense that you have the monster deck, which traditionally is used with lower cost cards, but they can be duplicated, and it's strength in numbers. But then you also unlock cards later that are high strength cards that do unique things, and you can build a different deck to have a different playstyle. Now, because a game of Gwent only lasts 3 rounds, you don't get to draw cards as you would in a traditional CCG. Instead, after the first round, which is your normal card hand, and you get to replace 3 cards from your starting hand, you then in the second round get to draw 2 cards, and in the third round get to draw 1 card, and it works pretty much like that throughout the game. It's really simple to pick up, it's really easy to play, and most importantly, it is a lot of fun. I really like the idea of having this system where you're not sure what the opponent's going to have in their deck, you're not sure what they're going to play. It's still coming to terms with the overall meta of the game at the moment, so that hasn't quite been ironed out. There's still some time before people kind of figure out what the optimal decks are or what the optimal playstyles are, and so it's a little bit of a wild west at the moment, which is a lot of fun for me, because as soon as that meta is sorted out, I am going to suck at the game and everybody else is going to be able to beat me. Moving on to the card art, I absolutely adore the card art in Gwent, especially the animated card art, like the gold cards. There's a lot of animations to those, like the Geralt card, he's like killing some ghouls, and it's really cool. They look fantastic. The overall aesthetic of the game, including the music, including the visuals, all looks absolutely top notch, which I wouldn't expect anything less from CD Projekt Red. Now, I do have a couple of concerns at this current time. First is a minor one in terms of customization. You can't look at your profile, you can't look at your stats, you can't customize your picture, you can't really make it your own. That is no doubt coming in the future, but it would be nice to have it as soon as possible. My biggest concern is the fact that currently, to progress, you gain levels. Every time you win, you gain experience, and then you gain levels, and in between gaining levels, you are able to hit milestones in your experience bar that will grant you a card for free. Now, the problem with this is that you get no experience whatsoever for losing. So if you go on a giant losing streak for maybe 3-4 games, then you have basically earned nothing from that. And while you can send players good games after the end of a battle, which means they will get a reward in terms of ore or fabrics, which is essentially used for crafting cards later on, it's still a very minor amount, and you don't get any XP progression whatsoever, which means that if you are coming into the game at a later stage, especially once the game is fully launched, if they keep it this way, if you're going to come into the game later on and everybody's already wild ahead of you, has a total, tons and tons of more cards than you, they've got their deck set, and you're still trying to learn the game, you probably ain't going to progress, and that's going to be a problem. So that definitely needs fixed. There needs to be some progression for losses. There needs to be an XP gain for losses, and that's just the end of it. Otherwise, it isn't going to be fun for new players. The game currently only has a casual match mode. It definitely needs more modes. More modes are coming. I think that it would be interesting to see if there's going to be a competitive mode, because I don't think this is a game that you could necessarily have a competitive mode in terms of a big esports scene, because I don't think that that's going to be the case. I think you could have a competitive mode. I think that there's enough skill involved in there to have that mode in there, but I think it's going to be interesting to see where the meta takes it, if there's going to be any problems with that in the future. The last thing that I really want from the game is a single player story mode. The great thing about The Witcher 3, the great thing about CD Projekt Red as a developer is their ability to tell stories, and I think that a single player story mode would be a really good idea for Gwent, and I'm sure that it is coming. It will be one of those things that I would like to see them tell stories of different things, not tell the story of Geralt or, The Witcher. Tell stories of different witches, or tell stories within the world itself, but don't follow Geralt around, because we already have 3 games of that, and I would love a 4th, don't get me wrong, but I just don't want to see it in Gwent. I think it's an opportunity to do something completely different. Overall, my first impressions of Gwent are really good. I am really looking forward to seeing where they take this game. It is a lot of fun at the moment. It is still open for beta sign-ups. If you are interested in the game, you can head over to the website and sign up for the game there. That is my preview of Gwent. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below, and I will see you next time.